Hello, Leslie here from Message in a Fold. It is time for an update on what's going on with me and my breast cancer. I've kind of been out of touch everywhere for a week or two. You will probably hear an ouch or something sporadically. I do have some pain. It's quick. It's intense. It's a quick stab-like thing. Most of the pain that I have, I can ignore and just go on, but every once in a while, there's one that's really aggressive and makes me holler. So, if you hear that, just ignore the outburst, and I will just keep on going. I had in my last video, I told you about a PET scan that they did, and they didn't find any cancer in my head. They didn't find any in my lungs. They did find the breast cancer in the scan. They found a black spot on an adrenal gland, I think the left. They found a spot in my stomach and didn't know what that was. And then they found a black spot on my femur, my right femur. And according to my surgeon, a black spot on a woman's femur indicates breast cancer. I didn't know that. So they had to do a bunch of tests. So August, so far this month, well, in July, I just had a few doctor's appointments and scans. And I didn't have much that went on. August so far has been quite busy. All the red is the doctor appointments and the scans and things. If you have not read my blog post, and I'll put a link to that down below in the description, I did a post I started it on last Friday and then put it up on Saturday. Excuse me. About what's been going on with me. And they had to get these tests out of the way. A stomach scope and a bone scan on my right femur. They had to get those tests finished to see if I had cancer in any of these two areas. And if I did, then my whole treatment program was going to be centered around all of the cancers. So I have all of you guys to thank for the results. All of you that have kept me in your prayers and have thought about me and have just loved me. I have all of you to thank for the results that I have received. So, I was called on Wednesday, August 3rd, and told about the bone scan coming up on the 8th. Now, for pain relief, I take an over-the-counter aspirin thing called Vanquish. It has 227 milligrams of aspirin, 124 milligrams of acetaminophen, and 33 milligrams of caffeine. And that is a formula for Excedrin migraine also. But the Excedrin migraine doesn't seem, probably because of the coating on it, doesn't seem to act as quickly as the uncoated Vanquish. So Vanquish is my pain reliever of choice. So anyway, on the 3rd of August, I was told no aspirin of any kind for 3 days, the 3 days prior to the procedure. So at 6:30 in the morning, Joe was going to have to go with me because they were going to put me on some heavy-duty drugs, and I was not going to be able to drive myself home. So Joe and I get up there, and I get into this little curtained off area where they could get me prepared and ready, and and in those places they take your temperature, and the advancements in the way that they do things is it reminds me of Star Trek. I don't know if you're a Star Trek fan or if you ever were, but the medical doctor had some little handheld device that would go around the person's head and body to see if they had a fever or something. Well, they've got this handheld wand with a little ball on the end, and they put it here and went around and over there to get my temperature. That was, man, I thought I was on Star Trek or something. And they took my blood pressure. Oh, that thing hasn't changed in forever, where they squeeze your arm all the way off first, and then they finally ease up. Let's see. Then they had to do a little IV thing in my arm to get it set up for the drugs that would be coming later. And so when the appropriate time came, then they told Joe that the procedure was going to be about 2 hours long. And after it was finished, then I would be in the recovery area for about 4 hours. So this was going to be nearly an all-day thing, 6 to 8 hours in length. So Joe was prepared for the long haul. And he stayed with me in the little area until they wheeled me out. And I think he went somewhere within the hospital to go get something to eat or find a quiet place out in the waiting room and read a book or whatever. I think he stayed out in the waiting room until they were done with me before he went off. So anyway, I get off they take me wandering different hallways, go through, get rides on elevators, and these people know these hallways and turns, and it's, yeah, that was kind of how they get you from one place to another, going down a hallway and making a turn, and going through an area where there's little hospital bedroom things that people go through, and off into another, and then over to an elevator, and up or down several floors, and then come out to where you need to be. If I had a job in a hospital like that, I'd be lost all the time. Yeah, I'd be lost all the time. Anyway, so they got me to the area where I needed to be. There was somebody already in the room, and I had to wait until it was free. So they wheel me in and then tell me that I needed to get on this table, this big donut-shaped machine. This big machine, I was going to be on the table in front of it, and I'd have to lay on my stomach. Well, I didn't think I could do that because of my breast cancer. It's pretty tender, and pressure on it, even wearing an undergarment, sometimes is enough to make my ears ring. So they told me that they had it set up so I could get on there. So I get off the bed that they brought. Somebody had to hold me because they had already given me some drugs. Sorry. So anyway, I get on the table, and I guess I wasn't in the correct area suited to the technicians. So the two women that were in there, they got the bottom edge of the sheet that I was laying on, and they gave that thing a jerk. Man, I went backwards so fast it startled me, and I made an exclamation. And they kind of giggled a little, and I was ashamed of myself, but anyway. So they got me ready, situated there, and then one of the nurses hooked me up with this long line of stuff, and then on the table, on the bed where I was, she had this vial, kind of like a syringe, but not, that held the drugs that I would need. And I don't know how she pushed it through to get in there. I didn't see that. So I had to avoid that tube to keep from flipping it off or whatever, or getting tangled up in it. So they start giving me the drugs, and the discomfort that I had in my breast from laying on my stomach vanished. It was gone. And I didn't have any pain at all. And I thought, wow, this is nice. But I was told that I would be given another drug that would make me forget. What in the world were they going to do to me that I would need to forget? So that gave me a couple of seconds of pause, and I thought, oh, wow, okay. The thing that went through my head was, I hope it doesn't inhibit the control that I have on my potty mouth, because then I would be quite ashamed of myself. Anyway, so they get me all drugged up, and the doctor comes in. They put me, the bed went backwards into the machine and adjusted and whatever, and they got a view of where the black spot was. I'm sorry, excuse me. I'm quitting smoking. I've had a 40-year, 1 pack a day habit, and I'm on the, well, I've got it under my shirt. I'm on the nicotine patch, and I'm chewing gum, and so now I'm getting... Anyway, okay, off to where we're going. So the doctor comes in, and he sees where he needs to go, and they swabbed me with some kind of sterile stuff, whatever, clean the area on my hip, and then I heard this drill noise. I didn't look. It was behind me. I wasn't going to look. But I heard the thing, and it was going for a little while. And then they stopped. The noise stopped. And then I was taken back into the machine, I guess to make sure that he was on the right trajectory of wherever the black spot was. And then I was taken back out, and then the drill went again. And they told me, you know, that I needed to move over a little bit to my left. Not so far. I mean, I was awake during this thing. They didn't put me to sleep. I was awake during this whole thing, and then they talked to me and asked me if I was doing all right. And then that stupid blood pressure thing would go off and squeeze my arm, and that was the most painful thing that I felt. I mean, even with all the drugs that I had, that thing was... that blood pressure thing was terrible. So, the doctor finally finishes, and I don't know how long I was in there, and he said, okay, you're done. And I looked over at the little table where he had all of his things, and I saw this drill. Oi, oi, oi. The bit was 5 inches long. I'm glad I didn't see that before the procedure started, or I probably would have got up and left. I would have walked out of there and totally got lost. But, man, that was kind of scary to see that thing. Wow. So anyway, they put a compression bandage on the area where he went through. And then I was given other drugs to finally go to sleep. And when I woke up, I was back in the area where I had started, but off in a different little room. And I was sleeping. When I woke up, they told me that instead of the 4 hours, that I was only going to be there for 2 hours. Evidently, they had gone and talked to Joe and told him to go get something to eat, that I was out of that procedure. But they didn't tell him that it was only going to be 2 hours. So when I woke up, one of the nurses came and said, okay, we're going to get you all undone here and get you ready to get out of here, and you can go home. The doctor said you only needed the 2 hours here instead of the 4. So they had to, I had to send a text message to Joe that I was going to be released earlier. So a little while later, he comes in, and then they helped me stand and able to walk out of there. I did not feel any pain all day long. I slept quite a bit when I got home because of all the drugs that were still in my system. And, oh, and the doctor told me after he was done that I was not to do any heavy lifting, and I was not to do any housework, and I was not to go up and down stairs, and that I was not to do any aggressive workouts, bicycles or the treadmill or aerobics or anything. I was not to do any of that for 72 hours because where he drilled into my femur, that could break, and then it would be major surgery to get that fixed. And I thought, yay! Thank you for giving me such good news. Anyway, so we get home. I only make it to my recliner chair, and then I fall asleep. And I don't know how long I was asleep. Several hours. And then I woke up. I didn't eat all day long. I wasn't hungry or anything. So it was time later to go to bed. It was about 10 o'clock at night. So we go to bed, and about 1 o'clock in the morning, the pain was so intense in my right hip. That was awful. It was so bad, it made me sick at my stomach and made my ears ring. And so I carefully got out of bed, hoping that I wasn't going to bust my leg. I knew that in the bathroom I had some hydrocodone from a tooth extraction a long time ago. So I went and got that stuff. And I took one of the pills. Well, that prescription was from 2006. So it's 10 years old, but I went ahead and took one anyway. And about 3 o'clock in the morning, the pain subsided. I went back to bed, and I don't remember what time I woke up the next day. After I got up, the pain then was gone. I didn't, if I turned quickly or something, then it would hurt. But I didn't have a lot of pain. So during the 72 hours, other than that time from 1 to 3, that was the most uncomfortable that I had been. So then I went and saw my oncologist on the 10th, and she used some calipers to see how big this tumor had grown. And it was growing. It was getting pretty big. And I had a dark purple area from the cancer on the underside of my breast, and I've got a picture here. So she told me that I needed to go through the next test, which was the stomach scope, to make sure that I didn't have stomach cancer before they started me on any treatment plans. So the day after seeing my oncologist, then I went for the stomach scope, and that was like 10 o'clock in the morning. And there, some more drugs. And the ladies that were in there, that were helping me, preparing me for the examination, they were chatting at me and telling me what I was going to expect, that they were going to put this scope down my throat, and it was going to go into my stomach, and they were going to take small samples of the area that was marked on the PET scan, and if there were any other areas within my stomach that might be a problem. And then they said, "Do you have any questions?" Yes. They're going to put a thing down my throat that I've read on the internet has problems, that they can't get it clean. And somebody else's goopies that are up inside that thing are going to be transferred into me. How much danger am I in? So that's the question I asked. And then they were all over themselves. No, we keep it clean. We get into the different levels and clean it out really good. And we've had this procedure before, and we're not afraid to do it. And you know, what else are they going to say to keep me there to go do the test? So the doctor comes in, and then they said, okay, we're getting ready to do the procedure. So now we're going to put you to sleep. You're going to be asleep through this whole process. So they gave me drugs, and I started to drift off. And then I felt them messing with my head. They raised my head, and then they put a thing in my mouth and then tied it in the back. And I felt the thing with my tongue, and it has a little round hole on the inside, and it was between my teeth. Well, that round hole thing is where the scope was going to go in. And then I was gone. I was out. I don't know how far into the procedure that I started coming around, but I could feel that scope down my throat, and I had to swallow. I felt like I had to swallow really bad, and I did not accomplish that. So my crazy brain, I'm thinking, how can I breathe? So I'm thinking, okay, we'll see. I mean, I know that there are two areas in your esophagus, one for your airway and the other that goes down to your stomach. So how do I breathe? So I took a deep breath through my nose, because I couldn't through my mouth. So I took a deep breath, and then I had to let it out. Okay, I can breathe. And then I'm thinking, can I feel how far down that is in my stomach? Can I feel if it's in my stomach or not? And then I felt pressure being applied, and I felt that thing going down even further, and I groaned, and then bang! They gave me more drugs, and I was out for the rest of that procedure. So, yay! So now I have two experiences that are really totally different from anything I've ever had done in my whole life. After that was done, and I was woke up, this one lady that had been with me and giving me the drugs and everything, she was with me over in the recovery room, and she had me sit up, and we were going to leave, and she said, "Do you know where you are?" And I said, Yeah, I'm in the same place that I was when I first saw you. She says, no, you're in the recovery room. I said, how did I get there? I don't. Yeah, I got up and walked. Crazy. So anyway, I get out, and once again, being totally drugged up, Joe was going to have to be with me because he was going to have to drive me home. So another day of falling asleep and staying asleep for most of the day. Well, then the next week, my hip is not bothering me. The rest of that week, the scope was done on a Thursday. The bone biopsy was done on a Monday. So the weekend, things went pretty good. And I was able to get a video up on a card challenge that I'm doing with Stamp Girl. A collaboration, not a challenge. I was able to get a card up during that time. And then on the 16th, I was supposed to get another ultrasound. I was only told it was an ultrasound. So I was having more pain in my breast than I had had before, and it was getting harder. The tumor itself was getting really hard, and it was growing, so I was in considerably more pain. So I was taking my Vanquish, and it got so bad that I had to have another one of my 10-year-old hydrocodone pills to ease the pain that I was having. So I get to the appointment on the 16th, and then I'm told that I have to have a biopsy on that day as well as an ultrasound. I said, but wait, I've been taking aspirin because this thing is really bothering me. And I had taken a hydrocodone earlier too. Well, because I'd been taking the aspirin, they had to reschedule it. I had to have 3 days of no aspirin at all. So then on Friday, I had the ultrasound and I had the biopsy done. And then I got, the test results have come back. And this is where all of you people, your prayers and stuff have just been amazing. There was no cancer found in my bone, in my femur, and there was no cancer found in my stomach. I did, however, have H. pylori, and I'm not quite sure how I got that. I'm told that that's from eating sushi or undercooked fish, and I don't do fish of any kind. So I'm on an antibiotic, and I have an ulcer, so I have an ulcer medication, and this thing for 14 days that I'm on. So anyway, I get my first chemotherapy session, and it was 2 shots, one in each hip of this Fluvastrand stuff. I am on the research study because of all of your wonderful prayers and things. This has totally been awesome. I cannot believe the things that have happened. I really can't. I was prepared for the chemo and that like $9,000 of treatment. I was totally prepared for that. And trying to figure out how we were going to make the money to be able to pay for this. And ideally, I wanted to go on the research study because that was going to not cost me anything. They would do the chemotherapy with me, and and whether I was on the chemo or on the research study, I was still going to have breast biopsies every month for 6 months. And those things, those breast biopsies are $2,000 a piece. And then $9,000 for the chemo. Where am I going to get this money? And so I worried about that, and now all of the test results come back that I don't have cancer anywhere else in my body except for in my breast. So thank you guys. Thank you. Thank you. Praise the Lord. I'm so fortunate. I am so very fortunate, and I am so thankful to every one of you that have, you don't know me except for here on YouTube, watching me on videos. You don't know me in any other way, but you reached out and you prayed for me, and I totally thank you all for that. I am so appreciative. I can't even express how much gratitude I have for each one of you. Because of that, I am able to go on the research study. And the research study, the chemotherapy, is paid for in the study. The breast biopsies are paid for in the study. And after 6 months' time, the whatever surgery they do on my breast to take the cancer out, or if they have to do an entire mastectomy and a lymphectomy, whatever they call that, that's covered under this research study. So am I blessed? You bet. I'm going to get emotional here. So I'm sorry. I can't thank you enough. And I don't know how to thank you. But I appreciate every single one of you that have prayed for me and for the cancer that I'm going through and for the entire process. Thank you. I see my surgeon on the 30th of this month to see how things are going. The breast biopsy that they did on Friday the 19th, last Friday, the biopsy that they did then is to find out what the Ki-67 thing is. That is the growth of the cancer, how much it grows, and every month I'm going to have a biopsy. They're going to take out some of the cancer tissue to see if this chemotherapy that I'm on through the shots is helping killing the cancer. And as the Ki-67 number goes down, decreases, then I can continue on this and on this research study and not have to go for the chemotherapy. So I'm looking forward to that, and I am focusing on that this shot, this series of shots, is in fact going to work, and that I don't have to go off and do something else. I have like I said, I have an appointment on the 30th with my surgeon for him to take a look and examine my breast and see if by palpating it, squeezing, flipping, flopping, turning, twisting, whatever, that if there's any physical changes. And then Friday, on September 2nd, I go in for another set of shots. The first round of the chemotherapy shots of the Fluvastrand, whatever it's called. I get 2 shots at the beginning and then 2 shots 2 weeks later. And then after that, then it's once a month, the 2 shots. So I get a double whammy right up to get things started, and then they go. So everything is starting to slow down. On the 14th of September, I see my oncologist in the morning, where she can do her assessment, manipulation, to see if the the drug is doing what it's supposed to do. And then that afternoon, I have another breast biopsy to find out what the Ki-67 rating is. So from a month of doctors, tests, something going on every week, then I only have 2 appointments for September so far. Thank goodness. Sometime in September, I'm going to have another doctor visit with my surgeon. But other than that, so in preparation for having a September coming with not all of the testing and I have days where going to the grocery store, spending 2 hours walking around in there and reaching and lifting and whatever. Yeah, that puts me in a lot of pain for the rest of the day, and then I end up falling asleep. I can be sitting down reading a recipe or watching one of the videos on these days when I do grocery shopping or help Joe out in his little shop area, or I do some strenuous housework. If I do anything like where I work a lot for a couple of hours, man, that day is, that day is done. I'll be watching a YouTube video and fall asleep. And then I'm asleep for like 2 or 3 hours. I'll start reading a recipe for something, whatever we're going to have for supper. I'll fall asleep. And my whole day is shot then. So I'm not getting much done in the way of here on my YouTube videos. I just physically can't seem to do it right now. But, with September not having tests and major things going on, and hopefully this shot thing will make that cancer, it's supposed to kill cancer, take the food away from it and make it die. So hopefully I won't be in as much pain as I do get in when I do things, and hopefully I can go and do things. So, okay. That's what's going on in my world. Alright, this has been a really long video, and I'm sorry. I did not mean to whine at you about what's going on, but I wanted to thank you. I wanted to thank you, and let you know how awesome your prayers have been. That through your prayers, you're reaching out to me, how they have impacted me. So I thought you needed to know the whole thing that's going on and how you have been instrumental in my cancer. Thank you. Thank you, every single person. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for praying for me, for thinking of me, for your love. I appreciate you. And I can't say anything more than thank you. And what I can do now is I'm going to get in here and start making videos. I have a subscriber question, and I have things that I want to show you and stuff that I want to do. So we're going to start getting at things. All right. This is a really long one, and I'm really sorry for that. And this is Leslie from Message in a Fold saying, you people are totally awesome. Totally awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.